InStitches Show, and welcome back to our 2023 Fair Isle Style calendar blanket. It's April, so we're going to add some tulips to the project. Now you can make your tulips all one color like I have. I've opted for a nice rich pink. You can make all of your tulips different colors and get sort of a garden effect going, or you can make your tulips individually two colors. Now if changing colors halfway through a graph makes you nervous, this is a great time to start experimenting. I always recommend that you do a little sampler, but you don't need an extra set of spools. You still only need 6 spools. You fill them with enough to do the bottom, and once they're out, you're going to fill them again with the tulip color to do the top. So you only need to manage 6 spools. It's no different than any other time. I love the way this looks too. We'll show you this a little closer up in a moment, and you can decide for yourself whether or not you want to do 2-color tulips or just all one color like I'm doing. All this week, we have been sharing photos from subscribers and channel members alike who've been building the blanket along with us this year over on the community post. There are so many fun ideas over there on color combinations and even the order in which you can add your graphs. So if you're still kind of wondering about things or looking for a little inspiration, that is a great place to pop over and look. And a big thank you to everyone who has shared their photos with us and with all of you. This month marks our 10th anniversary, and every year at this time we always have a celebratory anniversary sale over in our Etsy shop. This year is no exception. Our Etsy shop is 20% off this weekend, and that includes our new tulip pattern in addition to our bonus Fair Isle style patterns. We've got a paw print, and we have a birthday cake, and we have more bonus Fair Isle style patterns coming. Hopefully there's 1 or 2 maybe coming this weekend, so be sure to pop into the shop and check out the stock over the course of the weekend because there might be some fun new things coming. Everything will be 20% off, even the new stuff. And if you were looking to add an awareness ribbon to your blanket, some people were asking for this, we have this available for free over on our website. All the appropriate links will be available down below. And our spring shop is offering 25% off for this weekend, I think everything up to April the 17th, and we'll put the promo code down there below for that. That includes t-shirts and tote bags and our fun little hook bag, the little hook kit bag that you can get. It's got the girls on it, Lula and Bella. And yeah, we've got just a whole lot of fun little sales savings happening this weekend. So good weekend to put your feet up and do a little shopping from the couch. Okay, let's grab our blankets, we'll grab our hooks, we'll grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch up some Fair Isle style tulips together. To continue with our calendar blankets for April, we are going to use the same yarn we've been using all along. For me, that's a size for medium weight acrylic yarn. I have my spools back for this month. We are doing 6 repeats, so I need 6 spools for each of those tulip repeats, and each spool has 6 yards of my color B on it. I'm using a nice bright pink. You might want a little extra, maybe 7 yards if you have a loose tension, but roughly 6 to 7 yards per spool. My color A is still white. It is connected to my blanket, so it's ready to go, and I need around 120 or so yards of the color A for the strip this month. Same hook we've been using all along, a size 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9, and of course you need a pair of scissors and your yarn needle. And once you've got all that together, we can get started. As always, I recommend doing a little sampler of this month's graph pattern just to get comfortable with where your color changes are and maybe how much of that color B you may require, and also just to kind of get an idea of color combinations you might want to try. I tried using a variegated background color and then a light color for my tulip on this one. I just wanted to see what that one looks like. And of course, I did a 2-tone version of the tulip where I made the leaves and the stem all green, and then I switched up to a nice bright pink for the tulip up top. If you're going to do this version of the 2-color tulip, which is pretty tulip looking, you will probably want, you can get away with using just all 6 spools. You don't need an extra 6 spools because once you're finished with your green color,
then that's it. You won't need it again. So you can switch now to your tulip color. So you can reload your 6 spools with the next color. And in this case, you might want around 3 yards for your green color, 3 to 4 yards, and maybe 3 to 4 yards again for your tulip color. So you can use the same spools, and once they're out of this color, you'll just reload them with the tulip color if you're going to do a 2-tone tulip. As usual, we are going to have a graph up here in the top right hand corner. Mr. InStitches will put that in for you. It'll stay up so you can pause at any time and just consult the graph if you zip along a little quicker than me or if you're moving a little slower. We are going to be moving through each row as always. This is a mirror image graph, so even if you are following it the way you should, so right-handed start over here, left-handed start over here, it doesn't really matter which angle you come at these rows because it will always be exactly the same. It is mirror image, so even if you accidentally started in the same side of the graph every single row, you would still get the same effect. First row, each of these rows represents one repeat of the graph. So this is one graph. We're going to do the whole thing 6 times like we normally do. So we're going to do the first 20 stitches and then we're going to repeat it. And for row 1, all 20 of those stitches is color A. So we're going to do a whole full row of 120 stitches in color A. So let's grab our blankets and get to that. Last month when I finished off, I put a little safety pin in here to keep my working loop from undoing on me. So I'm just going to pull that up. I'm going to take out my little safety pin, grab my hook, and here we go. Every row begins with a chain 2. The chain 2 does count as a double crochet. We turn our work. We do not need our spools for the first row of the repeat graph. We're just going to double crochet with color A in every single stitch all the way across. Every 20 stitches is one full repeat of the graph. At the end of 6 full repeats, we'll have 120 stitches and they will all be color A. There are the first 20 stitches of row 1 complete, and that, just to remind you, correlates to our graph. There are the first 20 stitches all done. So this is our chain 2. That's if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're over here. That's your chain 2. And the other 19 blocks are all represented by a double crochet. So that's the first 20 stitches. That's the first row. One full repeat of row 1 of the graph is done. And it looks like this. You're going to repeat that 5 more times and you'll have 120 stitches at the end of row 1. When you get to the end of the row, don't forget that your last double crochet is worked into the top of the chain 2 from the previous row. That is a stitch, so we must treat it like that when we get there. Count them up, you should have 120 stitches all the way across. That's 6 full repeats of row 1 of the graph, and all of it should be the same color, so you're just using color A to start. Every row begins and ends with color A in this month's graph. So every row you will chain 2, turn. You don't have to worry about trying to chain 2 with a different color. It's always going to be color A. And row 2 is exactly the same as row 2 of our January and February graphs. So right-handed, you're over here. This is your chain 2 that begins the row. Lefties, you're over here. But either way you come at this, it's going to be the same, so don't worry if you get confused. The first 9 stitches are in color A. We introduce our spool in for color B in the middle 2 stitches, stitch number 10, stitch number 11, and then we drop it and we're back to A for the remainder of the repeat of the graph. So it's going to look like A for the first 9 stitches, B for 2, and then A for 18 because it's going to be 9 and then 9 again when we start over. Remember, you're repeating this row 6 times. So 9 to start, 2B, 18A, 2B, 18A, 2B, all the way across. So let's grab our first little bit of the graph here. We're going to chain 2 to begin. We're sticking with A because A is what brings us up to our color change over here. That chain 2 counts as a double crochet. Remember, that first stitch is used by the chain 2. So you double crochet into the next stitch. It's the same every row. The first 9 stitches of this row will be in color A. As we get to the stitch just before the color change, we begin it, work the first half, And now you're going to grab your first spool and we're going to get this started. I'm going to keep my spools on the front of my work for the first row, but you can join them all from the back, it doesn't matter, but remember you want to keep them all on the same side. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. I'm going to finish off that stitch, and I'm just going to tighten it just an itty bitty bit. Now I need to work over top of color A as I work the first 2 stitches in the second color. So we've come all the way to here. Stitch number 9 was where we started in A but finished in B. We're going to work 2 stitches in B and then we're going to switch back to A. So it looks like this. We're carrying color A. We're going to work 2 double crochets, a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. This is the stitch before the color change back, so we start the second stitch with color B, drop color B completely, and because I started with my spool on this side of the blanket here, I'm going to make sure that my yarn is to the front, and then I'm going to finish that stitch with color A. I do not need to carry my color because this is my spool, it's going to stay here. Before I continue, I'm just going to roll up that yarn and pinch it off so that it doesn't want to tangle up with any of the other spools. I'm going to weave in that short tail later, and then I'm going to finish the remainder 9 stitches in the first graph repeat. It's all color A. There's 9 double crochets to finish off the graph. So you have 9 in A to start, 2 in B, and 9 in A to finish, and that is 20 double crochets all together. That is the first 20 stitches. That accounts for a full complete row of the graph. That's row 2, 9 in A, 2 in B, 9 in A. And of course, we're going to repeat the graph again. 9 in A, 2 in B, 9 in A. And when we get to B, we're going to be working in our second spool. You're going to use it for 2 stitches, you're going to pinch off your color and keep going. You want to keep all of your spools on the same side of the blanket as you join them. Doesn't matter if it's the front or the back, but you want them all on the same side so that when we turn our work, they all move together to the opposite side. So just again, that's 9 in A, no matter what direction you're coming at it from. 9A, 2B, 9A. You're going to repeat 9A, 2B, 9A. And every time you get to a new iteration of B, you're working in a new spool. So you'll have all 6 of your spools engaged by the end of row 2 of the entire blanket. At the end of row 2, all 6 of our spools are now engaged. It looks exactly like the row 2 from the January and the February repeat patterns. So you should have 18 A stitches in between each of your initial 2 B stitches. So there's 2 stitches in our color B, repeated 6 times all the way across. We start with 9 in A and we finish with 9 in A. You should have 9 A stitches, that last one being in the top of the chain 2. So all of our spools are on one side of the blanket, so it doesn't matter if it's on the front like mine or if they're all on the back, but they all need to be on the same side. They start and finish on the side that they are joined on. So they start on the front, let's say, and they all finish on the front, so that when we chain 2 for row 3 and we turn our work, all of those spools now move to the other side. So for me, they're all moving to the back. For those of you who started on the back, they're all moving to the front. So for row 3, all of my spools will start on the back, they will finish on the back, which means that the tails will all be hanging out the back when I finish row 3. And then for row 4, we're going to turn back and they'll all move again. And this just helps keep things nice and consistent. It allows the color changes to be neater and more tidy, and it's just a helpful tip. We've also got a little miniature video on that. If you need some additional help, we'll link it below. All right, let's look at row 3. Right-handed, you're over here for your chain 2. Lefties, you're over here for your chain 2. We begin with, what is this, 2, 4, 6, 7 stitches in A. So the chain 2 counts. You'll have 6 more in A. That starts your row. We switch to B for 6 and we switch back to A for 7, which means there'll be 14 A stitches in between 6B. So you'll go 7A to start, but then it's 6B, 14A, 6B, 14A, 6B, 14A, all the way across, because we're repeating this 6 times. So here we go. That first chain 2 counts as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet into the next 6 stitches, remembering that the stitch before we change colors is only half worked in A. So that's the stitch before the color change. I work the first half in A. I'm going to count them up to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is stitch number 7. I unhook my B color. It's got to reach. So remember, when you're doing color work, you're always looking for reaches. So that color has to reach across a few stitches to be used. So don't let it be pulled too tightly. Give it a little bit of slack there. We're carrying A now. We're going to work 6 stitches in B. We're going to work over top of A. And you also want to work over top of the little carry. So the way your B has been pulled to interact with the first stitch, you want to work over top of that carry. So here we go. Working over top of the carry and over top of color A. Making sure that you grab it so your hook is underneath everything. And do I need to carry it again? I always kind of do this. I always look down and see, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll work over top of it one more time. Not too tight. That makes everything neat and tidy. And now for the last 3 stitches in color B, I just need to carry A. This is my little tail that started. I'm trying to keep it out of the way. I'm going to weave that in when I'm done. There we go. Because we're working several stitches in color B, when we work the last stitch of color B before the color change, I work the first half of it in B, and I'm going to take color A and I'm going to just tug gently on it, just to make sure that there's no bunching up of color A or whatever color you're carrying. You want to make sure that it's not bunching up underneath and that this stitch here where the color changed isn't loose. So I'm going to drop color B. It started on this side of the blanket. It's going to finish on that side of the blanket. So I make sure that color B is pulled to the back where it started. I do not need to carry it anymore. I am switching back to color A. We'll just tug on that B a little bit. And then it's 14 stitches in color A until I get to the next color change, which engages spool number 2. So I'm going to get a couple of stitches away here from the color change, put my work down, and I'm just going to pick up that spool and I'm going to wind it back up and just clip it so that it doesn't bounce around or get tangled with any of its neighbors. So there we go. Let's make sure I finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one more, and that finishes the first full graph repeat. So 7A, 6B, 7A, and then we repeat 7A, 6B, 7A, 7A, 6B, 7A. And remember, you're carrying the color, you're pulling the color B up to where it needs to work its first stitch, so you want to make sure you work over top of that little carry. So you can see I've worked over top of it, it's not going to show, and that's important because you don't want sort of long pulls. So anytime you switch colors from the row before, look down, make sure that if you've got a reach or a carry, that you're just working over top of it. That'll help keep things neat and tidy. It'll hide those little bits of color change. And you can just work away at that for row 2. That's 6 full repeats of row 2 of the graph. All of my spools are on the same side. It's the other side that they started on. That is 14 color A, 6 color B, so 14A, 6B, you start with 7A, you end with 7A. We chain 2 to turn in A, that counts as the first double crochet of the next row. We're moving on to row 4 now. We've got some fun little color changing in the middle of each graph. We are going to look at the graph here. Right-handed, this is your chain 2 over here. Left-handed, this is your chain 2 over here. 5 stitches in A to start. We switch to B for 3. 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B, back to A for 5. So 5A, 3B, 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B, 5A. And of course, in between repeats, it'll be 10A because it's 5 to finish a graph and 5 to start the next side. So here we go. That chain 2 counts as a double crochet. I'm going to work the next 4 double crochets in A. When we start that last stitch before the color change, work the first half of it, grab your color B. We've got another little reach happening here. So the B has to reach over to where it's being used. So I want to make sure that I work over top of that reach. I am carrying A and working over top of my B reach. I'm going to work 3 double crochets in B, working over top of my colored A carry, or I should say color A carry, and also over top of that little carry, that reach of color B. Start my 3rd double crochet in color B. Of course, that's the stitch before we change colors. Drop B, pick up A, finish that stitch. I'm carrying B now to work a single stitch in A, but it's also the stitch before a color change, so I work the first half of it in A only, switch back to B, I'm carrying A again, so I finish that stitch with the B, but you can see that it's a full stitch in A, so the top is the same color as A. We work 2 double crochet in B, working over top of color A. I'm going to just make sure that I'm not letting it bulge out. Start that second one. I'm going to drop B, finish it with A. I need to carry B, work the first part of that double crochet with A, finish it with B. So we've got 3B, 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B again. We're working over top of color A. I have a little knot there that I'm going to bury. Just pull up on my color A just to make sure that there's no bulging out the other side, and there's not. I'm going to finish that 3rd stitch with B with the color A because that's my last color change, and that's the last stitch in B for that graph repeat. There are 5 double crochets left in that row repeat, so I'm going to do them all in A. And then I'm going to pause, make sure that I've done it correctly. I've got 5A, 3B, 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B, 5A. That is one full 20 stitch repeat of the graph. Check the other side. There's no carries, there's nothing bulging out. Good. I'm going to take a moment to just roll up that tail of the first spool, pinch my yarn off. It is on this side, so it started on this side, it finishes on this side, and then I'm going to start all over again. 5A, 3B, 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B, 5A. I'm going to make sure I'm carrying the color not being used as I work through this interesting little color change area. Well, by the time I finish the 3rd stitch in that last part with my color B, I drop it completely and then continue on to the next one. That is the end of row 4. We have the bottoms of 6 tulips firmly established now. We're going to chain 2 in A. We're going to turn our work carefully so that all of our spools move to the other side of the blanket together. And let's take a look at the graph. We are starting row 5. We've got a little more fancy color work to do. We start with 4 in A, 1 in B, 4 in A, 2 in B, 4 in A, 1 in B, and back to A for 4. So we carry A, carry B, carry A, carry B, carry A, and then back to B. So it's very similar to this row, it's just that the number of stitches of each color in between are a little bit different. So here we go. The chain 2 counts as a double crochet. We want to get 3 more color A in before our first change. We start that first or that last stitch before the color change. Grab my color. There's just a little bit of a reach here. So I'm going to finish off that stitch with my color B. I'm now carrying color A. I also want to work over top of that little bit of reach from color B, so always look for it. We want to work 1 color B, so you work the first half of it before you switch back to A again. So just 1 stitch in a color means you only work the first half of it before you switch back to the other color. We are carrying B. We're going to work 4 double crochet in A. We start the 4th stitch in A, pause, grab B, tighten up on B. I like to pull it just to make sure there's no bulging out there. Doesn't want to sort of bulge out between the stitches. Finish it with B. We're working 2 in B, so we carry A underneath it. This is the last stitch before the color change, so we switch back to A. Pull on A just a little bit. Finish it. I'm carrying B. 4 double crochet in A, working over top of the carried color B. Pause, pull on B just to make sure that it doesn't bunch up. Finish that stitch with B. Carry A, work 1 double crochet in B, but I'm only half working it because it's only 1 stitch before the color change. Back to A, and now I can drop B, and I finish that row with 4 double crochet in A. Okay, so that is the first 20 stitches of the graph for row 5. 4A, 1B, 4A, 2B, 4A, 1B, 4A, repeat. I'm going to pause. Roll up that spool, pinch off the little yarn, and then I'm going to start again. So I'm going to repeat it 5 more times, and I'll catch up with you at the end of this row. That's the end of row 6. We've got the bottoms of 6 tulips now. We're going to chain 2 and turn. All of your spools move to the other side of the blanket. For me, that's back to the front. And row 6 is a repeat of row 2. So it's 9 in white, or A, 2 in B, 9 in A. 9A, 2B, 9A. Or if you're going all the way across, you start with 9A, 2B, and then 18A, 2B, 18A, 2B, and of course, this is the only time you're using your B spool. It's just for those little 2 in the middle. So 9A, 2B, 9A, 9A, 2B, 9A. Row 2 repeated for row 6 all the way across. Remember, as you're getting up to the stitch where your last B was used, you don't need your B until over here. So this is going to create a reach. You want to always look for those opportunities to work over a color to carry it. So even though you're not using it right now, there's the first 4 stitches in A. We're going to work a stitch in B, and I'm going to catch my B color as I work into the top of that stitch, just so I can hide that yarn, and then I'm heading over to where I need it, carrying that B as I go, because I don't want to have the reach on the outside of my stitches. So I get up to where I need it. I'm going to take B and I'm going to pull on it gently, just so it hides underneath my stitches. There we go. So there's no, there it is here, and there's a reach for it, but it's hiding under my stitches. Work the first half in color A before I switch colors. I'm carrying color A as I work those 2 stitches in B. Before I finish that second stitch, I'm going to switch back now to A to finish that second stitch. And that's it for B. I'm just going to get a couple stitches away here. There we go. And then I'm going to roll up that spool because I'm all done with it. No carrying B. And I'm going to finish off those 9 double crochet in A, and then I'm going to start again. 9 double crochet in A, switch to B, 9 double crochet in A. Remember, when you're working back across stitches and your colored, your other color needs to be carried, keep that in mind. You're going to have to work over top of it before you need it for this row. So as opposed to it reaching from where it was finished, now it's got to reach backward, so you have to work over top of that tail. So always be mindful when you're getting up to color changes, if your yarn is going to have to reach and you have to work over a reach, no matter what direction it might be going. That is the end of row 6. Row 6 was exactly the same as row 2, but remembering that you had to carry your B color a little bit before you needed it in the center. For everybody who's doing the 2 colored little tulip, so the bottom is green and the top is your tulip color, you are now finished. So that is done with your bottom color, your color B. You will now be reloading all of your spools into color C. And for the rest of us, we're just going to continue. Chain 2, turn with color A. Let's take a look at our friendly little graph here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7A, 6B, 7A, repeat. 7A, 6B, 7A, repeat. So row 7 is identical to row 3, and you do that 6 times, we'll be ever closer to the end of the graph. At the end of row 7, we've got the bottom part of our flower started, so that if you've changed colors, that's the first row where you've got color C in use. For the rest of us, this is just the bottom of the flower starting to appear. Chain 2, turn, and rows 8 and 9 are identical. Two, 4, 6 in A, 2, 4, 6, 8 in B, 6 in A again. So no matter what side you're coming at it from, for right you're over here, for left you're over here. 6A, 8B, 6A, repeat. 6A, 8B, 6A, repeat. Row 8 and row 9 are absolutely identical, so you're going to do 2 rows the same way. I'll catch up with you at the end of row 9 and we'll see how our tulips are shaping up. So just quickly, as I'm heading across row 8, there's the first 20 stitches of the graph done. We've got 6A, 8B, 6A. So you carry A under your 8B stitches, drop B, finish the graph row with 6 in A, and then you're going to repeat. And that's what every single one of those repeat looks like. That's the same for row 8 and for row 9. Row 8 and row 9 were exactly the same, so we've got most of the cup part of our flower done. We have one more row of color changing now. This is row 10. So we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and let's take a look at the graph. Row 10, right-handed, you're over here, left-handed, you're over there, but either way you approach this, it's going to be the same. You've got 6 in A, 1 in B, 2 in A, 2 in B, 2 in A, 1 in B, and then 6 in A again. So let's do that together. The chain 2 counts as a double crochet, so that's the first of our 6 double crochet in A so far. As we work number 6, this is the stitch before the color change, and I am going to let this fully unwind now because this is the last use of the spool. Finish that stitch with B. I'm going to make sure I catch the carry, and I'm working over A. Double crochet, but I don't fully complete that stitch because now I've got to switch back to A because there's just one little B stitch there. I'm carrying B now. I work 2 double crochet in A, the first half of the second one in A, drop the A, switch to B, I carry the A, I work 2 double crochet in B, the first half of the second one in B, drop B, pull gently on A just to make sure I'm not bulging out anywhere, finish that stitch in A. I'm carrying B, I work 2 double crochet in A, the first half of the second one, I drop A, switch back to B, then I work 1 more double crochet beginning with B, I drop it, I switch back to A, and then it's 6 more double crochet in A. So let's just get those 6 double crochet in. Okay, so that's the first 20 stitches. 6A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 2A, 1B. Drop that yarn, that's the last you need of it. You can put that empty spool aside. And then 6A to finish off the graph row, that's number 10. You're going to repeat that 5 more times, and that is it for the color changing in our little tulip. At the end of row 10, we have finished with all of our A, B color changing. You should just have your little strings remaining here. I've gotten rid of all of my spools. I've put them away for next month. And we're going to weave in the tails later. So we have a special tail, a weaving in tail specific to this kind of work video. So if you still need a little help weaving in your tails, we'll link that down below for you. But we've got one more row now of our graph to complete. So we're going to chain 2, turn. Quick look at the graph. Row 11 is the same as row 1. So that is a double crochet in color A all the way across, no color changes, so just 120 stitches of color A. Remember that chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and now you can just double crochet, turn your brain off, and I'll catch up with you at the end. That is the end of row 11. Our little tulips are now safely encapsulated in the rest of our A or background color. You can pull up on your loop. If you're changing colors for the background of every single section, this is where you want to fasten off. But if you're not changing colors like me, I'm just going to slip that little safety pin back into the loop. That'll keep it from unraveling on me. And I can appreciate looking at my tulips now for the rest of April. Go ahead, weave in your tails back and forth underneath corresponding stitches of the same color. Like I said, we've got a helpful tutorial on that linked down below if you need extra help. And that is April all wrapped up.
And there you go, some tulips to add to our blanket. It's hard to believe we are a third of the way through the blanket already, and it's going to be quite a nice length. I think 12 months entirely is going to be pretty long, but remember, you can add in the other graphs we have, the bonus Fair Isle style pattern graphs. We've got more coming over the course of the year. You can repeat the ones that we've already done, so the 4 official ones. You can repeat any of the other 8 that are coming over the next 8 months, and you can make your blanket as long as you want, as wide as you want. It's a very flexible kind of project. And don't forget, there's going to be a border too, so keep that in mind if you're thinking about the size of your blanket. That said, we hope you enjoyed adding some Fair Isle style tulips to your blanket. We hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Make sure you pop into our Etsy shop and check out our 20% off anniversary sale. I can't believe it's been 10 years already. but it has. And have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Oh, and happy Easter. It's Easter too. So stay safe, stay crafty, and we'll see you here soon. Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.